My name is Laura. I am 25 years old. 1 month ago, I moved to the United States from Germany. It was my first time living in another country. I got a job before I came. It was in a small clothes shop. I was happy at first. I wanted something new. I wanted to change my life. But after I arrived, everything felt different. The city was big and full of noise. The streets were busy. People walked fast and did not look at me. I felt like I was not part of this world. I tried to be strong, but I felt lost. I lived in a small apartment close to the shop. It had one bed, one table, and a small kitchen. There was a window. I could see one tree and some sky. It was quiet inside. I liked the quiet, but I also felt lonely. My first night in the apartment, I sat on the bed and looked around. I had no pictures on the walls. I had no friends to call. I ate bread and cheese for dinner. I drank tea and listened to the sound of the city outside. I missed my family. I missed speaking in my own language. I missed the people who knew me. Each morning, I woke up early. I got ready for work. I took the bus to the shop. The bus was always full. People didn't talk. They looked at their phones. I looked out the window. The streets looked the same every day. At work, I folded clothes. I smiled at customers. I asked if they needed help. Some people were kind. Some people were not. My coworkers were friendly, but they were busy. They talked fast. I often didn't understand them. I smiled and said yes, even when I wasn't sure. I felt like I was watching life from outside a window. I was there, but not part of it. I ate lunch alone. I went home alone. I watched TV at night, but I didn't enjoy it. My phone had no new messages. No one asked how I was. I wanted to feel normal, but I didn't. I didn't cry, but I felt heavy inside, like my chest carried something too big. I wanted a friend, just one person to say hello or ask how my day was. I started walking after work. I didn't want to go home too early. The city was less noisy in the evening. I liked the softer light and the cooler air. One day, I found a park. It was big and quiet. There were trees and green grass. I saw some children playing and old people walking. I sat on a bench near a tree. I looked at the sky. I closed my eyes and listened to the wind. It was the first time I felt a little better. That bench became my favorite place. I went there again the next day. I liked to sit there after work and think. I started to feel less afraid. The noise of the city did not bother me in the park. I could breathe. I could hear my thoughts. I felt safe there. One evening, a woman sat beside me. She looked about my age. She smiled and said something friendly. I smiled back. She asked if I was new to the city. I said yes. I told her I moved from Germany. She was surprised but kind. She said welcome and asked if I liked it here. I said yes, but I felt alone. She said she understood. She had moved once too. We talked a little about our jobs and pets. She worked at a bank. I told her I had a cat. She said she had a dog. We both smiled when we talked about our animals. She asked if I came to the park often. I told her I came most evenings now. I said the park helped me feel calm. She said it was her favorite place too. She came there after work to relax. She asked if I wanted to meet again the next day. I said yes. We agreed to meet at the same time and same bench. I walked home that evening with a smile. I felt something new. I felt light. It was just a short talk, but it meant a lot to me. I didn't feel invisible anymore. Someone saw me. Someone listened to me. That night, I sat at my table and drank tea. I thought about our talk. I remembered her kind face. I hoped she would come back the next day. I even cleaned my room before bed. I wanted my small space to feel better. I opened my window and looked at the sky. I took a deep breath. For the first time since I moved, I felt hopeful. The air was cool. The night was quiet. I felt something soft in my heart, like a small light. Maybe things could change. The next afternoon, I went to the park early. I sat on the same bench. I waited quietly. After a few minutes, she arrived. She smiled again. I smiled too. We sat and talked more. That day, I learned her name. I told her mine. We didn't talk about big things. We talked about food, books, and the city. But it felt easy and warm. It felt real. We talked about our favorite seasons. She liked summer. I liked spring. We talked about music. She liked soft music. I liked love songs. We walked a little before we said goodbye. I told her I was happy to see her. She said the same. She said maybe we could do it again. I said yes. I walked home slowly. I felt peaceful. I looked at the people on the street. They looked the same, but I felt different. I was not so afraid anymore. I knew one kind person now. That was enough for today. The city was still big. It was still loud. But now, I had a place in it. A bench in a quiet park. A new friend with a soft voice. A beginning I did not expect. Before I share the rest of my story, I need to know, where are you listening from? Knowing someone hears me, understands me, gives me strength. The next few days felt different. Every evening after work, I went to the same park. I sat on the same bench and waited. She came each time. Her name was Mia. She was calm and friendly. She smiled a lot. She listened when I spoke. I felt safe with her. We talked about many things. Sometimes about work, sometimes about life. She asked me questions, but she also told me about herself. She said she had lived in the city her whole life. She knew the good places and the quiet ones. She told me about her favorite coffee shop and a small bookstore near her home. I wanted to go there one day. She also said she didn't have many close friends. She liked being alone, but sometimes she felt lonely too. That made me feel close to her. We were different, but we understood each other. At work, things also felt easier. My coworkers still spoke fast, but I didn't feel as afraid. I started to say more. I asked questions. I tried to join small talks. One girl in the shop showed me how to fold shirts quickly. Another one helped me understand a return form. I said thank you many times. They smiled back. I still had trouble with some words, but I didn't feel ashamed. I felt like I was learning. I felt like I was growing. One day after work, I saw Mia waiting at the bench before I arrived. She had 2 drinks in her hands. She smiled and gave one to me. It was cold and sweet. She said she remembered I liked tea, so she brought something similar. I felt warm inside. No one had done something like that for me in a long time. We sat for a long time that day. The sun went down slowly. The sky turned orange and then pink. People walked their dogs, and children played on the grass. The park felt peaceful, like a different world from the busy city. I told Mia about my home in Germany. I told her about my mother, who liked to bake bread on Sundays. I told her about my brother, who always made jokes at the dinner table. She laughed when I spoke about my cat, Leo, who slept on my pillow and snored like a baby. I hadn't talked about my family in weeks. It felt good to remember them. I missed them, but talking about them made me feel close again. Mia listened to everything. She didn't rush me. She didn't look at her phone. She just sat and listened. She told me about her father, who lived in another state. She missed him too. She said her parents were divorced. She lived with her mother when she was young, but now she lived alone. She said sometimes the quiet in her apartment made her feel sad. That's why she liked the park. That's why she liked meeting people like me. I didn't say much after that. I just nodded and smiled. We were both quiet for a while. But it wasn't a bad silence. It felt like we both understood without words. One weekend, Mia asked if I wanted to go with her to the bookstore. I said yes. It was Saturday morning. I didn't have work. I wore my favorite blue sweater. It was old but soft. I met her outside the park. We walked together to the bookstore. It was small but full of color. There were books on every wall and music playing softly. I walked around slowly. I saw books in English and books in other languages. I found a small book of love poems. The words were simple and sweet. I bought it. It was the first book I bought since I moved. After that, we went to her favorite coffee shop. It was warm and quiet. People read books or typed on laptops. We sat near the window. I drank tea and she had coffee. We didn't talk a lot. We just sat there and watched people walk by. It felt nice. I didn't need to talk all the time with her. Just sitting together was enough. I felt calm. I felt like myself. Later that day, we walked back to the park. The air was fresh. The wind was soft. I looked around and felt something new. The city didn't feel big anymore. It didn't feel cold. It felt like a place I could stay. I still missed my home, but I didn't want to leave this place. Not now. I liked the streets. I liked the lights. I liked the park. And I liked Mia. She was my first friend in this new life. And maybe she was something more. That night, I sat on my bed and looked at the book I bought. I opened it and read the first poem. It was about meeting someone in a strange place. It was about feeling safe with someone who was once a stranger. I smiled. It felt like the poem was about me and Mia. I read it again and again. I didn't know what the future would bring, but I knew this moment was real. This feeling was real. Days passed quickly after that. I worked during the day and met Mia in the evenings. We didn't do anything special. We just talked, walked, or sat in the park. But every day felt better. Every day I felt less afraid. One day at work, my manager asked me if I wanted to help with the window display. I was surprised. She said I had good taste. She said she noticed my care. I felt proud. I said yes. I worked hard to make it look nice. When I finished, I sent a picture of it to Mia. She said it looked beautiful. That evening, Mia gave me a small gift. It was a notebook with a flower on the cover. She said I could write my story in it. I opened it and smiled. On the first page, she wrote in soft letters, "You are brave. Don't forget that." I felt tears in my eyes. I had never felt so seen. I hugged her. She hugged me back. I didn't say thank you. I didn't need to. She knew what I felt. That night, I wrote in the notebook. I wrote about the city. I wrote about my small apartment. I wrote about the park. I wrote about a girl with kind eyes who gave me tea and time. I wrote that maybe, just maybe, this new life was not scary anymore. I wrote that I didn't feel lost now. I wrote that I was beginning to feel found. The days turned into weeks, and slowly, this city started to feel like home. I still had moments of silence, but they didn't feel so heavy anymore. I still missed my family, but the pain was softer now. I had a job. I had a place to live. And more than anything, I had Mia. She became a part of my daily life. We still met in the park, but now we also went to new places together. We visited a small art museum one Sunday. We went to a weekend market and shared fresh fruit. We walked in new streets, talked about little things, and sometimes just smiled without speaking. I never felt like I had to pretend around her. At work, I started feeling more confident. I understood more words. I asked for help when I needed it. One day, a customer told me I was very helpful. I smiled for hours after that. Another day, my manager let me train a new girl. I felt proud. I remembered my first day and how scared I was. Now, I was the one showing someone else what to do. I never thought I could do that. My sister noticed the change in me too. She said I looked happy. She said my eyes were brighter. I told her about Mia. She smiled and said she hoped to meet her soon. One evening, something small but special happened. Mia and I sat in the park, as usual. It was cold, so we both had warm drinks in our hands. The trees were losing their leaves. The sky turned a soft gray. We sat close. She didn't say much at first. Then she looked at me and said, "You make this city better." I looked at her and didn't know what to say. My heart felt full. I wanted to say something kind, something real, but no words came. I just smiled. That was enough. She smiled too. We didn't need more. Later that week, she invited me to her home. It was the first time. Her apartment was small but cozy. She had soft lights and a plant near the window. A picture of her dog hung on the wall. The room smelled like tea and warm bread. She made pasta for dinner. We ate at her small table and talked about the past. She asked if I ever thought about going back to Germany. I said maybe one day, but not soon. I said I wanted to build something here first. She said she hoped I would stay. I told her I felt like staying. That night, as I walked home, I looked up at the sky. The stars were clear. The streets were quiet. I thought about how everything had changed in just a few weeks. When I first came, I felt like a stranger. Now, I felt like I belonged. Not everywhere, not with everyone, but in this little world I had made with Mia. That was enough for me. A few days later, my sister asked if she could join us in the park. I said yes. I wanted them to meet. I wanted them to know each other. They got along well. They laughed. They talked about music and movies. My sister told Mia I had changed. She said I smiled more. Mia looked at me and said, "That's good." I felt proud. I felt seen. I felt loved in a quiet way. December came. The days were shorter and colder. Shops had lights in the windows. People walked with scarves and warm drinks. The city felt soft. One night, Mia gave me a scarf. It was gray with tiny white flowers. She said she saw it and thought of me. I held it in my hands for a long time before I spoke. I told her I had never had a friend like her. She laughed and said, "Me too." That night, I wrote again in my notebook. I wrote that love doesn't always come fast. Sometimes it comes gently, like a quiet hand beside yours. I didn't know what we were exactly, but I knew what I felt. I knew it was true. A week before Christmas, I got a message from my mother. She asked how I was. I sent her pictures of my room, the park, the bookstore, and Mia. She replied, "You look happy." I said, "I am." That was the first time I said those words since I moved. I didn't just write them. I believed them. I felt them deep inside. I was happy. Not every minute, not every day, but I had joy now. I had something warm and steady. On Christmas Day, I didn't go home. Flights were too expensive. But I didn't feel sad. I spent the day with Mia and my sister. We cooked, we watched a movie, and we talked about dreams. Mia said she wanted to visit Europe one day. I said I would take her to Germany. She smiled and said she would love that. I believed her. That night, as the year came to an end, I sat in my room and looked at the notebook Mia gave me. I opened the last page and wrote, "This city is no longer strange. This life is no longer empty. I came here scared. I stayed and grew. I made a friend. Maybe I found love. I found myself again." The journey was not easy. I had bad days. I had lonely nights. I missed many things, but I didn't give up. I stayed. I opened my heart little by little. And in doing that, I made space for someone else. For Mia. For kindness. For joy. Now, when I walk down the street, I don't feel small. I feel strong. When I take the bus, I don't feel alone. I feel part of something. When I smile at work, I know it is real. This is still a new life, but it is mine. I built it one step at a time, and it all started with a quiet park, a small bench, and a girl who said hello. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share. More emotional and inspiring stories are coming soon.